Good evening. Welcome back to Conversations on the Couch. I'm your host, B.A. Shepherd. I am glad that you are here. So while you are checking in, let me just say hello. Joy B, good to see you. Mika, good to see you. Thanks for being here. Good to see everybody joining in. Make sure you give a shout out to wherever you're from so I can see where you're from and say hello and give a shout out. Scotty, what's happening? Good to see you. So just give a shout out to where you are from while you're checking in. Another comfy couch combo. Yep, Joy B, you know how we do. Conversations on the couch every evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hey, Isabella in California. Good to see you. Glad that you're here. All right, so tonight we're going to be continuing our talks, and we're going to talk about conversations and the image that you have of yourself that is killing relationships. There's a particular image that you have, and that I might have, and that others have that it kills relationships. So we're going to talk about that tonight. So while you're checking in, get settled in, get something, get yourself something comfortable to drink. You see me with my big mug ready to go. So we'll have a good chit chat. So hopefully you've had a fantastic day. Yesterday's conversation was fantastic. We were talking about standards and pedestals, right? And putting someone on a pedestal and kind of talking through that, because the idea of a pedestal is something that sometimes people struggle. They struggle with the idea of being put on a pedestal. But one of the things we can do, and I encourage you to do this, is not only use words, but use definitions, right? Sometimes words can be so overly used that the actual meaning of them, it kind of just fades out, right? Because words can become emotionally charged. And when life is more emotional, then logic, kind of goes down, right? The more emotional we are, the less logical we are. So what we want to do is step out of this realm of existence where we're just being driven by emotion and commercials and movies and someone like trying to put some emotional charge into conversations and interactions with us. And let's step back and actually think about, what do these words actually mean? So that word pedestal, when we were talking about it, it's a place where it's a place of reverence and honor, right? And so instead of thinking about being put on a pedestal, think about being placed in a position of reverence and honor, and then ask yourself, do I want that? Right? So like love, right? Sometimes love is the same thing. If you don't have a working definition of love and someone just says, I love you, it might feel wonderful, but what does it really mean? What does it really mean for that person? If it is undefined, if you in your relationship with a person have not really defined what love is, what does love mean? It's just something that is being said to touch your heart, make you feel good, and he can lead you on. But is there really any substance? So one of the things I just encourage you to do is be super careful about words and really look at the definitions, right? Get into the definitions and start operating with the definition, right? And so if you're somebody that looks in the Bible, you might look at 1 Corinthians 13 and how it depicts love as being patient and kind and a whole list of things. And so when you say I love you, you don't even have to say it. You can say, I find that I am wanting and working towards being more patient with you and being more kind and being protective and not keeping record of wrongs. And so when we start laying out the actions, then we have something which we can judge by and say, oh, I can see that actually you are putting in effort to be more patient. You are putting in more effort to be more kind. You are, you're not exalting yourself, but you are operating in such a way that you're honoring me. And so we get into a different way of operating, and we think differently. But that was yesterday. Tonight we're going to talk about the one image that is killing relationships. You know what that image is? Let me just get right to it. Here's the punchline. The image that is killing relationships is the image that someone has that is a lesser image of themselves. Like what? How is that killing a relationship? Like that, I thought you were going to say like porn. No, that can have an impact too. But the thing that is really hurting us in relationships is this image that we have of ourselves that is one of a lesser value than what we are truly worth. When you operate out of a lesser image, when you see yourself as lesser, there's something in you that is going to kill the relationship because you're operating out of a deficit. Whenever we are mistakenly operating from this place where we see ourselves as lesser, then by definition, when we show up in a relationship, we won't be able to contribute as much as we possibly could if we were showing up as everything that we are. If we were showing up in our full potential, then our relationships look different. Why? Because we see ourselves different. We see ourselves in a different way, then we can show up in a different way. When you see yourself as lesser and operating out of a lesser place of capacity, you're not going to be all that thrilled with yourself. Even though you might portray it, you know that you're living a lie. And if you're living a lie with yourself, guess what? You're also living a lie with someone else. That's going to have an effect because the lie is a lie. Regardless of who knows it's a lie, you know it's a lie. And so you sit there and you go through day by day and you're struggling and you're wondering like why things aren't working out. It's because you've been downplaying yourself. And so tonight, this is not a downplay yourself kind of conversation. This tonight is a conversation that is about hyping you up. This is about building you up for real. And listen, if you have big mug capacity, I need you to be the big mug in the room. See, here's something about this big mug, right? Let's use this as an example. When this big mug is in amongst the other mugs, amongst the other cups, do you know that it stands out? There's only one mug of this size and this capacity in this place right now with me. So when I put this in the cabinet and it's amongst all the other cups and containers, guess what? This stands out without apology. And yes, of course, I know I'm personifying a cup, but let hang with me. This cup has no problem being large. This cup has no problem standing out. And if we're being honest, many of us do. Many of us have a problem being recognized, being seen, standing out because we are operating out of a place of deficit. So when we look at ourselves, we don't think that we're actually supposed to be someone that gets recognized. We don't think that we should stand out from the crowd. We've been taught and perhaps even trained just to blend in and be one of the number. And yeah, I know social media would try to say, "Oh, we want you to be creative," but yet and still we look at social media and what do we see? Everybody doing the same dances, the same motions. Like okay, like what else? What else do we have to bring to the table? What is it about you that makes you, that makes you stand out and makes you the big mug? I don't know if you know this, but last night there was a gentleman. He plays basketball in the NBA. His name is LeBron James. He passed the all-time scoring record. And I talked about this earlier. And I think about how when he was young, when he was in high school, which is, I don't know, now what, 20 something years ago, my father, myself, and a few guys from that we are friends with, we went and saw him play a high school game here in Philadelphia. The place was packed. And so we watched this young guy. He's playing basketball. He's phenomenal in high school, right? 20 years later, he's in the NBA. And last night, he becomes the all-time scoring leader in the NBA. Now, why does this matter to us? And how does it apply to relationships? Well, I would dare say, from the time that this young man was in high school and they had anointed him the next great thing. They anointed him as king. They called him King James, right? All the way back in high school. In his mind, there was no part of this that said, I'm supposed to play small. You know what? I see that I could be better, but I'm just going to kind of operate like just one of the guys. No, he didn't operate that way. And the proof is in the fact that 20 years later, he's still going. He's the all-time leading scorer. But what about you? What about me? When are we going to ever step into our all-time greatness? What does it mean, Brian, to be great? Well, let's think about this. Greatness is a matter of service. This man, his teammates, they serve their greatness. What makes them great is that they are entertainers. They go out on the court. They play the game. They play at a high level. They train. They do what they're supposed to do. They work together. They practice. They work out. They do all these things in order to serve people that buy tickets and sit in the audience and watch. Okay? They're serving their greatness. They have stepped into it and they're okay. They are more than okay. They are fantastic with being recognized as one of the few people in the world, the best of the best at their particular sport. They're okay with it. But what about you? Like, are you downplaying your greatness? Have you found it? Do you even recognize where you could serve your gift, your talent in a relationship and be great? What can you bring to the table if you would just stop thinking about yourself in this lowly, just, drab, down kind of, I'm just okay, I'm not all that special kind of way? What if you thought differently? What if you laid your head down tonight and you said, you know what? From here on out, I make no apologies for being great because my greatness is really a matter of service. So I have no problem serving. So that means I have no problem being recognized as great. So what if in our relationships you show up and you have this person that you're interested in and you see them and they see you and you're making eyes and you're feeling kind of, you're feeling them, they're feeling you. What if you showed up and you said, listen, let me just tell you off the top from the get-go, that I am going to be the greatest love of your life. Make no mistake about it. I am going to be the greatest love of your life. And here's why. And then you start laying out, here's why being in a relationship with me is so great, because here's everything that I have to offer. And let me just tell you, I'm not downplaying myself. See, are you that kind of confident? Like, for real? Are you that kind of confident where you can show up and say, nah, I'm the best. I'm the best possible love for you, right? I think about this as married couples, right? When people are married, they're go ahead and just say it like, no, I'm the best for you, and I'm going to prove it every single day, day in, day out. I'm going to prove that I'm the MVP around here. I'm the most valuable partner that you could possibly have. Think about it. Why do we downplay? Well, I get it. We've been in some relationships and things have gone wrong. We've had some missteps in life, some miscues. And when we look at our mistakes, we think that our mistakes have now become our identity. And then we start relating to our identity that in the mistake more than the possibility of our lives. So we're looking at what we did wrong, and now we associate ourselves with the wrong. And we think that's who we are. We see what happened. Like, so many people have been through really tragic situations. People have been through situations where they've been abused and they've been hurt and they've been mistreated, or perhaps they've did something that was, just considered wrong or evil. They did something and they just associate themselves with that lesser state of living. Because the things that happened, the abuse, the mistreatment, the wrong that you might have done, that wasn't you being your best self. Let's just call it what it is. That wasn't you being your best self. That was you operating or being treated in a way that was less than the way that you should be treated. It was less than the way that you should be operating. And so if you begin to, quote unquote, be married to that situation, if you continue to be intimate with that situation, the only children you can produce from that situation are children of lack. Think about it. You make a baby with lack, you're going to produce lack. And so the seed of more is produced in your making this shift and saying, you know what? I need a new dance partner. I can't keep going around in circles with this conversation. I can't keep living in this mindset, because this mindset is too detrimental to my potential in my future and what could be in my life. My experiences in life are being limited because I just keep looking at what I'm not and what I've done wrong and what hasn't worked out. And I just keep associating with it, and I just keep rehearsing it. And guess what? All of our relationships suffer when we think that way. When we think of lack, that's all we can have, because that's where our focus is. And so I always like when there's a moment in time when someone's doing something special, or there's going to be some historic moment, because I like to watch and see what happens in that moment. And last night, when this man he's accumulating the points and he's getting closer and closer, and people are counting down. Oh, he needs 4 more points, and he needed 8 more points and 2 more points. And then he goes and he shoots the basket. He shoots the one that's going to put him ahead and give him the all-time leadership position. And I watched how the people in the audience, they were all there. Not all of them, but many people were there, and they had their camera phones out and they're recording the moment and they're watching the moment in the way that I am. I sat there and I thought this: how many of those people will ever have such a moment? How many people in that building right now will ever have a moment that is just, I want to record this because this is about to be special? I know LeBron walked in last night. He had on a suit, and I just saw some highlights of it because I didn't watch the game. And I'll tell you why I didn't watch the game. I didn't watch the game because part of me, I think like this. I'm like, that man is living his dream. And I'm happy for him. I'm a sports fan. I enjoy sports, but there's only but so much that I can take in. I'm like, yeah, I'm like, look, can it be recorded? Yeah, absolutely. It can be recorded. All right, I'll just record it. I'll watch it later because I got things I need to do. I need to work on my all-time great moment. So I don't really want to be distracted by his. I'm happy for him. But I thought about how many people are watching moments and they're celebrating someone else's moment, but they'll never have one because they don't think themselves to be worthy of one. So what about you? I asked the question. The debate now goes back and forth. Who's the greatest of all time? Is he the greatest of all time? And he said, look, I'm never picking anybody over me. I believe that I'm the greatest to ever done it. So when will we have that conversation? When will you have that conversation to say, now I'm the greatest of all time? Earlier today, I did a live earlier, and I shared this. Wherever you show up, that's your opportunity. That's your space to be the greatest of all time in that space. Wherever you are, you can be the greatest of all time. You can be the greatest of all time wife. You can be the greatest of all time husband. You can be the greatest of all time parent. And it may not be to everybody's children, but you can be the greatest of all time to the ones that are assigned to you. You can be the greatest of all time in the place where you are assigned to be, doing whatever it is that you do. And you know what that does? Going back to yesterday, that places you on a pedestal. Like, that lifts you up. People, when you become the greatest of all time and you begin operating in that space, even moving towards it, people will begin to hold you in a place of reverence and honor. And that could be a struggle depending on how you grew up. Like for me, I grew up in church, and I used to hear about how, more of you need to be really super humble, lowly, right? Not too fantastic. You kind of like one of my girls in the barn, they talk about this. You kind of just wanted to be a beige crayon. that's what she calls it. She calls it being a beige crayon. Like she's like, nobody really ever goes to color with the beige crayon. She gave me this whole thing about the beige crayon. She's like, nobody ever really colors with the beige crayon. You're just kind of in the box. You're a beige crayon. And so now every day we have these conversations and we talk about, and she'll say, like, any given moment, that person's being a red crayon. She's like, the horse right now, Arizona, our big stallion, he's being a red crayon. He's different. He has a different kind of fire about him. And she brings him out, and it hits every time. But like, we kind of grown up in church, I was kind of taught, like, be a beige crayon. Right? You're not supposed to be loud and proud and like, yeah, you're just kind of just supposed to blend in. Like, and I know it's a very religious mindset, because as I started to grow and looked into the Bible, I'm like, hold up. Hold on. There's something wrong. Because from book number 1, the opening story, God says, I made you in my image and my likeness. Okay. Game changer. And then as you go through the story, you start to see all these examples of people that are doing fantastic things, right? Like who knows David and Goliath? Why do we know David and Goliath? Because David decided to be great. He was like, I'm going to be the greatest rock thrower of all time. right? Like, I'm so nice with this slingshot that all these dudes in the army that are supposed to be warriors, they're standing around getting punked by this dude named Goliath, right? And he's calling them out every day, making a mockery of God. David was like, guess what? What do I get when I go out there and I win? What do I first from the beginning, he was like, what do I get? I want to know what I get. Like, what does the guy get that goes out and wins? Oh, I'm gonna get a girl, I'm gonna get this. Oh, bet. I'm out. I'm going out to do this thing. He goes with his slingshot. We know the story. Rocks the giant, wins the battle. Famous. Why? Because he was good at slinging rocks. He was good at, throwing rocks. He was a good rock thrower. Like, we think about this. The stories that we see, we know these people because they decided to do something great. They decided to step out and be special. All these guys, he showed up. But see, let me just talk about David for a second. The reason that David was at the battle was because he was there on an Uber delivery. He was basically delivering, like food. He was delivering food to his brothers. He was like doing the DoorDash back in the day, and he's delivering food. And so if he would have associated himself with just being like the delivery guy, do you think he would have went out and rocked the giant? Would he have won the battle if all he saw himself as was, man, I'm just a delivery guy that keeps sheep. I'm just out here delivering some cheese and stuff. Just, nothing really special. I'm just David. If he thought that way, do you think he would have had the confidence to step up and go fight a giant when he was just a boy and the giant was a champion warrior? Come on now. And our mentality is the way we think about ourselves. When you think about yourself lesser than what you really are capable of being, you will never step into that moment that you are supposed to have that is meant for you. Our relationships suffer so much because we sit here with these pathetic mindsets about what we are not. And you know why we do it? Because we're not healed. Our hearts are not healed from the what has happened in our past. We would rather just keep throwing band-aids on it or keep being occupied and busy because we don't really want to address it. We don't really want to, and in certain cases, we're just hurting over and over and over again because we keep sitting in the same religious circles that we've been in, and we keep hearing the same religious conversations, and we don't even check the source for ourselves. This is one of the things that bothers me. Like, the Bible is widely circulated, but so many people don't even read it for themselves. They just take somebody else's narrative and then they just run with it. And I think about how much we miss out on. And so hopefully these conversations are helpful and can encourage you. Think about the guy Moses. Moses, who he's like, I'm not really eloquent of speech. But God is telling Moses, hey, Moses, you are going to help these people that are in slavery be free. I need you to go to the Pharaoh. And you have to go. That's your assignment. You're going to go and talk to them and tell them, let my people go. Moses, he identified with his lack. He identified with his speech impediment. And he said, I just don't know that I can do it. Thinking out of lack. But get this, the Bible says this. And I know this is probably going to bother you, maybe. But the Bible says that the Lord said to Moses, you will be as a God to Pharaoh, right? Okay, now let's hold on here. The Lord said that. Not some person. The Lord said, Moses, you are going to show up and be as God to this person in this situation. Let's just break this down. He was saying, you are going to show up as a representation of me in this situation. You are going to show up as me in this situation. Imagine thinking of yourself so lowly that you miss the fact. Now, this is for all of us, that in our situations, people that have been made in the image and likeness of God, according to what the Bible says, are supposed to show up as God in the situations that we're in. This is not your everyday Bible study now, is it? because that's not the conversation that you hear. Somebody would rather tell you about all your sins than to tell you, this is why you need to be healed. This is why you need to be whole. This is why we talk about being exclusives, because part of being an exclusive means whole. Like that's one of the synonyms used with being an exclusive. It is wholeness. So think about it. If you have been made in the image and likeness of God, and you have these situations, you have a domain, because the Bible says that you are to be fruitful and multiply and replenish and subdue and have dominion. In order to have dominion, you must have a domain. It must be a place where you operate from. So in your domain, you are supposed to have dominion and operate looking like the image and likeness of God. Why? Because you are meant to be as God in that situation. Now, you might be thinking, that sounds like a stretch, but no. The same spirit, the Bible talks about the same spirit that was in Jesus is supposed to be in us. Jesus thought it not a problem to be considered one with God. Why? He's like the same spirit. It's unity. When we all look the same, when we look just like God, and we're operating in the same love, and you are representing God to the world. Representation. Represent. Again, presenting. Again, showing. It's not a problem. It's a good thing. Anything less, think about it. Anything less than representing, re-showing God to your situations means you're operating out of lack. Why do we do that? We don't want that. Like, if we can give more love, if we could give more care, if we could give more attention, if we could be greater at communicating, if we could be greater at being attentive to those that we're in relationship with, if we could be greater at serving, why would we want to give less? Like, why would we do that? The only reason that we do it is because we think lesser. And what happens is we end up robbing our relationships of a tremendous amount of wealth and richness because we don't believe that we are even capable or supposed to or worthy of giving at such a high level. And the worst part is, even worse, we don't even believe that we're worthy of receiving. So now we struggle with the giving and we struggle with the receiving. Right? How have you ever been in a situation with someone and they were about you? They figured out, they were like, I'm really passionate about you. I'm really attracted to you. Like, I love you. And when they were expressing all this care and love and showing up and being present and really serving you at a high level, it was like you were choking on bricks. Did it ever feel like it was just too much? You're like, oh, this is just too much. I can't handle all this love. This is too much attention. This is too much care. Did you ever just start malfunctioning because you're like, I don't even know what to do with this? So you end up sabotaging the relationship because it was just like more than you felt like you were worthy of. Has anybody ever been in a situation like that? I've been in a situation like that when I served someone that way and they could not get out of their past. I've felt that way when someone was loving on me that way, and I was like, look, this is too much. Like, no, turn it down. No, this is too much. No. And I felt unworthy. And I had to get called on it. I had to get checked on it. Like, why do you think you're unworthy? I was like, okay. So we had to work through that. But when you're not healed, when you're not whole, and when you're looking at your lack, the greater things in life, you'll feel like you're unworthy of. Because you're only looking at deficit. And so when you're looking at deficit, you're saying, nah, I only deserve deficit. I don't deserve that much. Because there's something broken in me. So I can't be comfortable with that. And so when you start making the shift, you can Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. When you take a thought that's a fresh thought that takes you to a higher level, that's calling you to a higher level, it can change your entire life. What would it look like if from now on you started operating with a conviction that your life could have more? What if you really operated from a place of more and you're like, you know what? I know what it's been, but I believe for more. I've been in some bad relationships, and you can recount all the things that have happened. Like, okay, you can look at all that for a moment. But then if you make the shift, a conscious, intentional shift to say, okay, but I believe that there is more. We're on this world, all of us, we're on this planet together. If we step out of our situation for just a moment, I want you to do so with the thoughts of your current situation, whatever it is you see is lacking, right? Do this. Think about the lack in your life, and then let's pull back from our current situation and look out wide. Is it only lack in your situation, or is there lack in the world? Is there no possibility of that resource or thing being found in the entire world? Right? Let's just use money for instance. Say you don't have a lot of money. Say you're struggling. You don't have much money. You're like, so you might say you have a money problem. Let's back all the way out. Is there a lack of money in your situation, or is there just a lack of money in the entire world? Now, you're probably going to step back and say, in my situation, there's a lack of money, but out here, there's a lot of money. So what needs to change? Perhaps you shouldn't be just focusing on your situation. Perhaps you need to take a step back and start looking out into a wider world and say, wait, but the thing that I need is available, but I just keep looking in the same shoebox and it's not there. Okay, let me back up. How can I tap into all, some of what is out here in this expanse? What do I need to do? What do I need to learn? What needs to change so that the abundance of resources that are out here can be some of it? I just need some of it. I don't need all the money in the world. How can I get some of it into this place? This relationship that we're in is so frustrating. Our communication stinks. We're always at each other and arguing and bickering, and we just don't get it right. This relationship stinks. Okay? So you have a communication problem. There's a communication issue. But if you step back into the wide picture, are there any resources that could help you become a better communicator? Are there any trainings available? Are there any teachings? Are there any books? Are there any YouTube videos? Are there any things available that could help you tap into the abundance of what communication could be? See, if we would stop thinking about the lack, then we can look back and see that there is greater available. There's abundance that's available, but we just keep looking in the same shoebox and it's empty. You can change your entire life with a different thought. I just don't know. Nobody wants my product. Okay, really? There are like 8 billion people in the world. No one wants your product? Or are you trying to give your product and sell your product to the people that don't need your product? Hello? Maybe the people that need your product are the people that are taking a step back from their situation and they're looking out into the abundance and saying, where's an answer? And they just can't find you because you're talking to the wrong people. Perhaps the relationships you keep having that keep ending the same old frustrated way. And you keep saying, I keep talking to the same old guys. It's always the same kind of guy. Well, maybe you keep looking in the same kind of guy's shoebox and finding the same kind of guy. But aren't there more guys available in the whole entire world? Maybe you could change your thoughts about the kind of guy that you really want in your life. Maybe you can look at all those negative experiences with men and say, look, I really don't want this, but I do want this. And start looking for the what you want. You don't have to operate out of, I just kind of take what comes along. No, don't do that. Come on now. So it's a shift. Because if you don't shift, your relationships to your money, to your family members, to the potential of your life, your relationship to everything suffers when you see yourself as lesser. Like, I get it. You might look in the mirror and be like, you know what? I'm not as fit as I used to be, or I'm not as fit as I want to be. Okay, fine. That does not make you lesser. That gives you an opportunity to change. You're not lesser, right? You're not lesser because of your physical condition. You're not lesser because of your educational, condition, or your knowledge. No, you're not lesser. You're just in the position to learn. You're in a position to change. Like, just don't own a situation. Don't take on a situation that you might be temporarily in. It's a temporary situation. Trust me. Don't make your temporary situation your eternal identity. Right? Like, don't do that. It's so temporary. You know how I know? I know because I've helped people lose 100 pounds. When they started and they were plus 100 pounds, they thought about themselves a particular way. And I'm like, no, no, no. That's temporary. They're like, Brian, it's been this way for years. You don't understand. I'm like, I don't care. It's temporary. You know how? Because if we can get on the scale tomorrow and it says it's 1 pound less, you know what we've done? We changed it. So it's temporary. Like, it's temporary. The stuff is temporary. Even your mindset is temporary because you can change it. And when you change your mind, you change your life. So that's the move. The move for tonight. Here, the assignment is the same one. The thought, not assignment, because I'm not telling you what to do. But here's something I'm going to encourage you to do. I encourage you to write down on a piece of paper. First, before you write it down, first I want you to say it. Talk about where you're the greatest of all time. I mean, hype yourself up. Say it to yourself. If you can articulate, say it. Say, you know what? I am the greatest of all time. I'm the greatest sexy of all time. Yes, I am. Right? Like, my spouse, you can be single, right? You can be an exclusive and say this, right? Like, I am the greatest sexy of all time to my spouse. And when my spouse gets to enjoy me, they are getting the greatest sexiness of all time. They are getting the most attentive, sweet, loving, inspiring, building up, challenging person of all time. I am the greatest of all time. Like, it's all good. Just start hyping yourself up. Be your own hype person. Talk to yourself in such a way that it makes you smile when you hear it. I shared earlier, like, throw on some music, start dancing. You just be in there, just practicing your dancing, like, I'm just practicing because I'm gonna rock somebody's world. Yes, yes, I'm the greatest of all time. Right? Like, you got to get into it. You got to know that you know that you know. Sometimes just get dressed up, get super fly, put on your business attire, whatever it might be, and just go out somewhere like, I'm the greatest of all time. I'm going out today. I'm crushing deals. I'm going to do what I need to do. I'm making sales. I'm the greatest of all time. Slap yourself on the butt. I'm the greatest of all time. Let's go. Let's do this. What? Athletes aren't the only people that need to be cheered for. Now, as an athlete, I appreciated it. I appreciated people being in the stands cheering for me. Sometimes you need to cheer for your own self. Like, if you can't say anything good to your own self, shame on you. Like, you got to get out of that. Look, listen, if you're struggling with your appearance right now and you're like, oh, whatever it is, you don't weigh enough, you weigh too much, this is too big, this is too small, this is stretched out, this is not, I don't even care. I want you to just celebrate it. Be like, you know what? Me and my sexy self right now, I feel good about me and I'm crushing everything that I do in life. I can change. I'll change in time. But right now, I'm celebrating who I am. Every curve, every wrinkle, right? Like, I don't care. You don't what? Because you're old, you think you're out of the game? No, you're breathing, right? Guess what? You're like, me and my old self, we're going to go out and we're going to do something fantastic today. The greatest of all time. I'm the greatest of all time, grandma. I'm the greatest of all time, grandpop. Like whatever it is, just be in the mirror, just putting on your face cream. Like, okay, today's going to be a great day. I'm operating in abundance. I'm looking for my next levels. I believe that there's something greater for me, and my efforts are changing my life because I'm doing something. I'm not just talking. I'm not just sending up a prayer and just like, okay, Lord, I'm putting it all on you because that's fun. Like, because if I can just pray and give it to the Lord, then there's nothing for me to do. No, you got to be faithful over the few things that you have to do so that there can be many. You got to take care of the small seeds that you have so that you can have orchards. Come on now. Like, don't be leaving out your house and don't want to give your honey a kiss and none. Come on, stop it. You have that person, they're there for you. You're married to them. Smooch them on the way out. Like, be the greatest I'm getting ready to leave spouse in the world. Like, you know what? Every day when I get ready to leave, it's a fantastic moment because I'm about to smooch your face off, right? I'm gonna hug you so tight that you know that I was here. You're gonna miss me when I'm gone, right? Like, come on now. There's a next level, but you know what it requires? And let's wrap it up with this. It requires you seeing yourself and seeing that you are meant to be, designed to be great. You've been made in the image of greatness. And that greatness is produced through service. So wherever you show up from now on, from now until forever, decide that you are going to show up as the greatest of all time, giving your very best, seeing yourself as worthy. No more lack. Stop looking at what you think that you don't have. That's not the zone that you are meant to operate out of. There's much inside of you. There's a treasure inside of you. So operate that way. Operate like you know, without a shadow of a doubt, that there is a great treasure inside of you. Now, I didn't make that up. Again, for those that are okay with it, and for those that are not, sorry for you. That comes right out of the Bible. There's a treasure in your earthen vessel. Inside of you, there's a treasure. Maybe you don't hear it enough, but it's there. So before you go on, continuing on through life, thinking that you have nothing to give, let these words just ring in your hearing, that there is a treasure inside of you. If you don't like it because I mentioned God and Jesus, it's too late. You already heard it anyway. There's a treasure inside of you. So serve your treasure to the world. You are not a broken treasure chest. No, you're full of treasure. So just picture it, see it, operate that way, and watch how it changes your entire life. Let's pray. Father, thank you for this day that you have made, another opportunity to rejoice and be glad and be together. Thank you for each and every person that's here, those that are here live, those that are part of Team Replay. Thank you for them. Thank you for this moment of just sitting back and thinking for a second about how we're going to go through this thing called life. Thank you for this challenging thought that we have more inside of us than what we've been living up to. That we could make a shift and move away from the thoughts of lack into the abundance of life. That our relationships, that our interactions, that our business dealings, that our education, that everything that has been placed within our hands could be brought to another level if we would shift and step back from that thought that we don't have enough. If we would look around and see how rich of resources are around us, and we would just make this switch, our lives could be different. Our impact could be different. Our relationships could be different. The intimacy that we have with one another could be different. The laughter, the joy, the comfort in the time of sorrow. All of it could be different if we would just make a shift and think the way that you've wanted us to think. You've given us so many blessings, and in your word, there's so much life that says you want that for us. But I get it, because we've been robbed through experience and we've just focused on the wrong thing. So I pray that the ideas that we've once held so dear, that we are not enough, I pray that right now someone would be free from those thoughts, that they would begin to see that, you know what, there's more inside of me. I'm capable of more. I'm called to more. There's a greater potential in me that needs to be filled, and there's a greater calling that is drawing me to a higher level that I need to respond to. And I pray that someone would say, yep, I'm answering the call. No more looking back. I'm going forward. I got to do this thing on a different level. I can't keep turning down the light and the brilliance of my life, trying to just make everybody else comfortable. I need to be the big mug in the cabinet. I need to stand out and serve what it is that I'm meant to serve to those that are meant to be served by it. And I pray that as they go forward, they would prosper, that you would prosper them even as they align with your will, as they serve and make the impact that they are meant to make wherever they're meant to make it. I pray that you would prosper them, that people would see them, that people would recognize them, that people would cheer for them and champion them. I pray that somebody would be grateful for them and express their gratitude to them. I pray that our efforts would be noticed. I pray that you would start bringing people out of the shadows that felt like it was okay for them to just live in the shadows. I pray that you would shine the light on them even as they move forward. Prosper them abundantly. Open up the windows of heaven such that there isn't even enough room for them to receive it all. And as they go forward, I pray that they would celebrate and thank you for what it is that you have done. I pray blessings upon each one as we go our separate ways. I pray that you would keep them encouraged, strengthened, put the right people around them to surround them, to keep them going. And we thank you in advance and count it as done. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. Well, I appreciate you all. Thanks for answering the call to be the greatest of all time, wherever you are meant to be that. Show up. Be the greatest of all time, each and every day. Even when you don't feel like it, even when you're injured, keep it in your mind. Now, I'm meant to be great. I'm meant to be unusually special in the domains where I show up. You are called to be unusual, unusually great. And I'm excited for you because I know that your families and your lives and your businesses and whatever you touch is going to be enhanced because of your unusual greatness. Go out, serve the world, touch the world. Most importantly, remember that that is meant for you. So no more lack. Step into your season of abundance. I'm B.A. Shepherd, 2 P's, A-R-D, reminding you to be a shepherd. The world has enough sheep. Love you much. See ya.